Have you ever wondered what you would do if you suddenly came face to face with yourself? Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are stepping into one of the strangest and most unforgettable mysteries ever whispered across cultures and centuries, the phenomenon of the doppelganger, the uncanny appearance of a perfect double of a living person. Imagine this for a moment. You're walking home after a long day. The street is familiar, the lights soft, the world quiet. Then, halfway down the block, you see someone approaching. At first, nothing seems unusual, just another passerby. But as the figure moves closer, your breath catches. Their face is yours. Their posture is yours. Even the way they turn their head, the way their footsteps fall, everything feels disturbingly identical. It is like watching your reflection step out of the mirror and begin living a life of its own. This is the essence of the doppelganger, a mysterious double that appears without warning, without explanation, and without any logical reason for existing. People throughout history have reported seeing someone who looks exactly like them, not a sibling, not a cousin, not a relative, but a version so precisely identical that it challenges the limits of what we believe is possible. In many ancient traditions, the appearance of such a double was taken seriously. Some believed it was a sign to pause, reflect, or be cautious. Others thought it symbolized a split in one's path, a moment when life itself seemed to branch in two directions. But even outside folklore, the idea continues to raise questions that sit right at the edge of science and human understanding. After all, how can two unrelated people look so perfectly alike? Is it simply a rare coincidence? A trick of the mind, or could it be something deeper, perhaps a clue that reality is wider, stranger, and more layered than we usually imagine? Tonight, we begin exploring the roots of this phenomenon. What exactly is a doppelganger? Why does this concept show up in so many cultures? And why does the thought of meeting your own double stir such a powerful mixture of fascination and unease? Stay with me as we step into the first layer of the mystery, the definition and the strange, unforgettable experience of encountering your perfect double. Throughout history, stories of doubles have appeared in places far apart from one another, ancient civilizations that never met, never shared language, never exchanged myths, yet somehow described the same unsettling phenomenon. These early accounts show that the idea of a perfect double did not suddenly appear in modern times. It has followed humanity for centuries like a quiet shadow. In ancient Egypt, there was the concept of the ka, a spiritual double believed to accompany each person from birth. It was not seen as something frightening, but rather a parallel essence, a presence that shared one's life, thoughts, and path. However, if the ka appeared physically outside its spiritual role, it was considered a strange and deeply significant event. In Norse legends, there was the vardager, a sort of forerunner, a double that appeared before the real person arrived. Witnesses described seeing someone who looked exactly like a friend or family member entering a room, starting a task, or walking through a hallway, only for the actual person to appear moments later. This was not viewed as a warning, but as a mysterious echo of actions not yet taken. Medieval Europe also carried its own tales. Many travelers wrote about meeting people who looked identical to them in distant cities, dressed differently but sharing the same features down to the smallest detail. These encounters were often treated with caution, noted in journals without attempting to exaggerate or dramatize them. What is intriguing is that all these historical accounts came long before photography, deepfakes, or identity confusion caused by technology. People had no reason to invent perfect doubles, yet they recorded them carefully, sometimes with fear, sometimes with curiosity. These early stories remind us that the doppelganger phenomenon is not just a psychological theory or a modern narrative. It is a thread woven tightly into human history, stretching far beyond borders, beliefs, and eras. As strange as doppelganger encounters may sound, many psychologists and neuroscientists have tried to understand the phenomenon from the perspective of the human mind. Instead of viewing these doubles as supernatural or symbolic, they explore how our brains construct identity, memory, and perception, and how those systems can sometimes slip or overlap. One explanation involves hallucinations linked to stress, exhaustion, or emotional overload. When a person is mentally overwhelmed, the brain can momentarily misinterpret visual information, projecting a familiar face, sometimes even the viewer's own, onto someone passing by. This kind of brief misrecognition feels vivid and real, even though it is rooted in perception rather than physical reality. Another possibility is autoscopic hallucination, a rare neurological condition where individuals see a double of themselves from an external perspective. Unlike a dream or imagination, the person truly perceives another self standing nearby, walking ahead, or mirroring their actions. Researchers believe this can occur when the brain regions responsible for self-awareness and spatial orientation become temporarily unbalanced. A softer explanation deals with memory-based facial recognition errors. The human brain stores countless facial patterns, and sometimes a stranger's face can overlap perfectly with our internal image of our own. In those rare moments, the brain may trigger a shock response. That is me. Even if the person only shares a few features, the angle of the jaw, the shape of the eyes, the way they walk, the mind fills in the rest instantly and convincingly. Psychology also considers the influence of identity fragmentation, where a person under pressure feels detached from themselves, almost as if a second version of who they are exists separately. In extreme cases, this inner split can manifest visually, shaped by anxiety, unresolved conflict, or deep emotional strain. While none of these explanations fully capture every doppelganger encounter, they offer a glimpse into how powerful and complex the human mind truly is. Not every double is a spirit or sign. Sometimes, it is a reflection shaped from within. For many cultures around the world, the appearance of a doppelganger was never seen as a coincidence or a quirk of the mind. Instead, it was treated as something deeply symbolic, a sign, a message, or a moment when the unseen world briefly crossed into ours. Folklore is full of stories suggesting that a double is not just a copy, but a mirror of destiny itself. In some European traditions, seeing your own double was considered a moment to slow down and reflect. People believed the encounter signaled that life was shifting in a significant way, a turning point where decisions mattered more than usual. It was not always a negative sign, but it was rarely ignored. Celtic tales described the double as a shadow self, an echo of a person's inner truths. Meeting this shadow was thought to reveal something hidden, perhaps a secret fear, a choice long avoided, or a reminder of who someone was meant to become. Rather than viewing the doppelganger as harmful, these stories framed it as a silent guide, appearing only when needed. In other regions, the double was seen as a spiritual reflection. Some believed it represented a part of the soul stepping outward, especially during moments of deep longing or emotional intensity. This idea suggested that humans carry more than one layer of identity, and that sometimes one of those layers drifts just far enough to be perceived. There were also stories of doubles acting independently, living small, subtle moments before the real person arrived. Someone's double might be seen entering a building, crossing a field, or sitting in a quiet room moments before the real individual followed. This created the sense that time, presence, or intention could ripple outward in ways we do not fully understand. These paranormal interpretations do not offer scientific explanations, but they reveal something equally important. For thousands of years, people felt that the doppelganger was not random. It meant something, carried weight, and it reminded humanity that not everything seen can be easily explained. While folklore paints the doppelganger as a spiritual or symbolic figure, modern science approaches the phenomenon with a different set of tools: data, genetics, probability, and the expanding understanding of human perception. Interestingly, even with these modern frameworks, the mystery does not fully disappear. One of the most grounded explanations involves genetic coincidence. With billions of people on Earth, scientists argue that the chances of two unrelated individuals sharing extremely similar facial structures are higher than we think. Facial recognition researchers have discovered cases where strangers from opposite sides of the world look nearly identical: same jawline, same brow shape, even similar expressions. In these cases, the doppelganger is not a supernatural double, but a rare genetic overlap. Another scientific angle explores large-scale facial similarity databases. With millions of images collected through research projects, scientists can now compare facial structures across populations. These studies reveal that several people often share extremely close facial measurements, even if their DNA is not related at all. This suggests that nature tends to reuse certain patterns, much like repeating shapes in the natural world. Then there are more speculative ideas not proven, but intriguing enough to spark curiosity. Some researchers have proposed concepts related to parallel possibilities, wondering whether identical-looking individuals might reflect deeper mathematical patterns in how life evolves. This is not about alternate universes, but rather about how probability and environment shape similar outcomes in different places. Finally, technology adds another layer. In a world shaped by cameras, digital footprints, and artificial intelligence, the line between real doubles and manipulated images can blur. Although this does not explain physical encounters, it highlights how easily human identity can appear duplicated. Modern science offers pieces of the puzzle: genetic coincidence, facial pattern repetition, perception, and probability. Yet even with all these theories, there remains a quiet acknowledgement: not every doppelganger encounter fits neatly into scientific frameworks. Some moments still resist explanation. Across the centuries, stories of doppelganger encounters have surfaced from writers, rulers, artists, and everyday people. These accounts stand out not only because of who reported them, but because of how vividly they were described: calm, detailed, and often without any attempt to sensationalize. One well-known case involves the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. A few weeks before his passing, he told close friends that he had seen a figure identical to himself walking quietly on a terrace. The double did not speak, did not gesture, it simply observed him before fading from sight. Shelley shared the experience with a tone of confusion rather than fear, as though he had witnessed something his mind could not categorize. Another widely discussed encounter comes from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the famous German writer. While traveling on horseback, he saw a man riding toward him dressed in unfamiliar clothes but with his exact face and posture. Years later, Goethe found himself riding down that same road, now wearing the very outfit he had seen on his double. For him, the moment felt less like a warning and more like a glimpse of a path his life would later cross. There were also accounts from historical leaders. Queen Elizabeth I reportedly saw her own double lying still on her bed, a moment described by witnesses as quiet but deeply unsettling. Although interpretations vary, the story has been retold for generations because of the Queen's composure and the witnesses' consistent descriptions. In more recent times, people have reported seeing their double in public places: at airports, in cafes, on trains, sometimes captured accidentally in the background of someone else's photographs. These modern encounters do not carry the same mythic weight, but they share the same uncanny detail: a perfect likeness, appearing without reason, living a separate moment. These stories, literary, royal, historical, and contemporary, show that doppelganger encounters are not limited to folklore. They weave through human experience like a pattern, appearing quietly in the lives of people who least expect it. Beyond stories and sightings, the doppelganger carries a powerful symbolic meaning that has evolved through different cultures. It is more than a mysterious double, it is a reflection of the human experience, a mirror held up to the deepest parts of ourselves. In many traditions, the doppelganger symbolizes duality, the idea that every person contains more than one side. There is the self we present to the world, and the self that remains hidden, the one shaped by quiet fears, unspoken dreams, or choices not yet taken. The double becomes a physical representation of this inner divide, appearing as if to ask, which version of you is the real one? Some cultures interpret the doppelganger as a symbol of unresolved emotions. When someone feels torn between two paths or struggles silently with a decision, the double represents that internal conflict. It stands at the crossroads of identity, reflecting the tension between who we are and who we might become. In storytelling traditions, the double can also embody the idea of destiny. It appears not as a threat, but as a silent reminder that life is always shifting. Some viewed it as a shadow of future choices, a quiet hint of transformation approaching. In this sense, the doppelganger is less a warning and more a moment of awareness, a pause that encourages reflection. Across literature and art, the doppelganger often symbolizes the hidden self, the traits we ignore, the memories we bury, the desires we hesitate to acknowledge. When the double steps forward, it brings those hidden parts into the open, reminding us that identity is layered and complex. No matter the culture, the doppelganger symbolism always circles back to one truth: it forces us to confront ourselves. Not the version shaped by others' expectations, but the raw, unfiltered self that exists beneath everything we show to the world. In modern entertainment, the doppelganger has become one of the most compelling symbols used in films, novels, and series. It appears everywhere, sometimes as a psychological twist, sometimes as a mystery, and sometimes as a quiet, unsettling presence that transforms the story without a single word spoken. Writers and filmmakers are drawn to the doppelganger because it taps directly into a universal fear, the fear of losing control over our own identity. When a character meets their double in a movie or show, it creates instant tension. The audience wonders, is this a trick, a clue, a hidden part of the character's mind, or something more mysterious? This uncertainty makes the doppelganger a natural tool for suspense and emotional depth. In many psychological dramas, the double represents inner conflict. The character might be struggling with guilt, ambition, or a hidden truth, and the doppelganger becomes the physical form of that struggle. It challenges the character, mirrors their weaknesses, and pushes the story forward in ways that feel symbolic yet grounded. Horror and mystery genres often use the doppelganger in subtler ways. Instead of dramatic confrontations, the double may appear in the corner of a frame, walking in a crowd, or standing quietly in a doorway. These small, almost unnoticed moments create a kind of atmospheric tension that keeps viewers on edge. The fear does not come from loud scares, but from the idea that something familiar has slipped out of place. Even science fiction has embraced the doppelganger concept through themes of cloning, parallel possibilities, and alternate versions of the self. These interpretations explore questions about humanity: what defines a person, what makes us unique, and what would it mean if someone else shared every feature we have? Through all these portrayals, one thing remains constant: the doppelganger is a storytelling device that reaches into the heart of human identity. Whether used for mystery, reflection, or emotional impact, it continues to fascinate creators and audiences alike. In the modern world, technology has given the doppelganger phenomenon an entirely new dimension. Unlike the quiet legends of the past, today's doubles can appear through screens, cameras, and digital manipulation, creating confusion about what is real and what is artificially mirrored. One of the biggest influences is the rise of AI-generated imagery. With just a few clicks, software can create a face that looks strikingly human, complete with convincing expressions, lighting, and texture. Some of these generated faces resemble real people without ever being based on them. This makes it easier than ever for someone to spot an image online that looks exactly like them, even though no real connection exists. Another factor is deepfake technology. Although often used for entertainment or harmless experimentation, deepfakes can replicate someone's face with uncanny accuracy. When viewers see a digitally altered video, it can mimic the appearance of a doppelganger, a version of the self speaking, moving, or behaving in ways the real person never did. This blurs the boundaries between identity and illusion. Surveillance cameras and social media also play a role in fueling modern doppelganger stories. With billions of photos shared daily, it is not unusual for someone to stumble upon a stranger who looks exactly like them, sometimes discovered in travel photos, group pictures, or even random street snapshots. These accidental doubles are often harmless, but they create the same jolt of recognition that traditional doppelganger encounters evoke. Technology has also amplified facial similarity research. Large databases used for face matching algorithms sometimes identify unrelated people as near-identical matches. This shows that modern systems, just like the human brain, can be fooled by striking similarities. While these digital complications do not explain the deeper, more personal doppelganger encounters described throughout history, they do highlight how easily identity can appear duplicated in the modern age. Today, the double may not step out from a dark hallway, it may appear on a screen with startling clarity. Even with centuries of stories, scientific theories, psychological explanations, and modern technology, the doppelganger remains a mystery that refuses to settle. Something about the idea of meeting a perfect double, someone who looks, moves, and exists exactly like us, touches a very deep part of human curiosity. Part of this fascination comes from the simple question, what makes us unique? If another person, completely unrelated, can appear with our face, our features, and even our expressions, then identity suddenly feels less solid than we thought. It becomes a reminder that who we are is a delicate blend of biology, memory, choices, and experience, not just appearance. Another reason the doppelganger stays mysterious is that not every encounter fits into logic. Some people describe seeing their double only once in their entire life, a silent moment, brief and unexplainable, yet unforgettable. Others report their double acting slightly out of sync, as though it existed in a different rhythm of time. These accounts are rare, but they are described with such clarity and sincerity that they linger in the imagination. The phenomenon also taps into a deeper human instinct, the search for meaning. People naturally look for patterns, signs, and connections. A doppelganger encounter feels like a message, even if the message is unclear. It prompts questions about destiny, perception, reality, and the unseen forces that shape our lives. And maybe that is why the doppelganger endures. Not because we fear it, but because it challenges what we think we know about ourselves. It sits in the space between science and wonder, between coincidence and possibility. It is a mystery that neither confirms nor denies, it simply exists, quietly, like a shadow that sometimes steps forward. In the end, the doppelganger remains one of those rare phenomena that reminds us how vast and layered the world truly is. Some mysteries stay with us not because they are solved, but because they continue to open new questions. As we step back from this journey through history, psychology, folklore, science, and the digital age, one thing becomes clear: the doppelganger is far more than a simple look-alike. It is a symbol woven into the human story, a figure that mirrors our fears, our hidden selves, our questions about identity, and the vast mysteries that surround us. From ancient beliefs to modern research, every explanation adds a piece to the puzzle, yet none of them fully closes the door. Perhaps that is what makes the doppelganger so unforgettable. It stands at the crossroads between what we can measure and what we can only imagine, reminding us that even in a world full of data and logic, there are still corners where wonder quietly lingers. Whether seen as coincidence, reflection, or something beyond our understanding, the doppelganger continues to challenge the boundaries of what we believe is possible. Thank you for staying with me on this journey into one of humanity's most intriguing mysteries. If you enjoyed exploring the unknown with me, remember to stay curious and stay open to the unexpected. See you in the next story.